Welcome back to the show where we run you through all the Dolphins news you need to know about. Later in the show, we run you through a specific positional group in free agency that we break down, and maybe some of those the Dolphins might target. After that, we run you through the fan Q&A where we answer fans' questions. But let's start with the news you need to know about, and there's only really one news story to talk about, and it's a very troubling news story, ladies and gentlemen. This first news story, only news story, comes from Pro Football Rumors. Dolphins cooling on Tua, warming up to Justin Herbert. The Dolphins are heavily connected to Tua Tagovailoa for months, but they are far from locked on him. The Dolphins have concerns about Tagovailoa's ability to recover from his serious hip injury, and beyond that, they're worried about his long-term durability. Sources tell Armando Salguero of the Miami Herald at the time they've been drawn more and more to Oregon star Justin Herbert. Even owner Stephen Ross has been on the record about Tagovailoa's question marks. It's a debate that will take place in front offices of any team considering the quarterback. Had he stayed healthy, Tagovailoa likely would have been the consensus #1 overall pick. Now teams need to take a closer inspection of the hip and also weigh the effects of his previous ankle injuries. With the 5th pick in the draft, the Dolphins could have every quarterback available to choose from, with the exception of LSU quarterback Joe Burrow. Their concerns about Tagovailoa could lead them to Herbert, who boasts arm strength size. He stands at 6'6", 1 inch taller than Ben Roethlisberger, and the ability to escape pressure in a collapsing pocket. By the same token, Tagovailoa has been much more accurate passer of the two and has demonstrated superior field vision. The latest news doesn't mean the Dolphins will select Herbert, but it's a strong reminder that draft plans are far from settled in February. Okay, so, I mean, who knows what the heck... I mean, this isn't like... You know, we're not at the end of the world yet, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, if this is like a week before the draft, I think I would be a little bit more concerned. But it's not. We're in February, so, you know, anything can happen from here to April. I will say this, though. I don't think this would be a good idea. This would be like I think this would be the worst case scenario. I would rather us not take a quarterback than take Justin Herbert. If we were going to take Justin Herbert, I would rather have Isaiah Simmons or Okudah or, you know, any of the high-level picks at that point. Or even trade back and maybe take the defensive end from Iowa, who his name always escapes my mind. I like him a lot. I think he fits the scheme perfectly. Like, that's probably what I would do if I was like, oh, we have to take... I'm not taking Justin Herbert if he's the only one available, because I'm not sold on Justin Herbert. He had a good bowl game. Things that we hear from high level... you know, former quarterbacks, when they break him down... it's not good, you know. So some of the things that you hear that you don't want to hear, like his offense isn't a pro-style offense coming from the Pac-12. It's a one-read system. It's a lot of easy completions. Some of it's downfield, but it's not complicated in any way. So he's gonna have a learning curve when he goes to the NFL. So that's an issue, in my opinion. His competition that he played against, not that high of a level, as opposed to Joe Burrow and Justin Herbert, or even if you look at Trevor Lawrence in the future at Clemson, all 3 of those guys have played in big games and played well in those big games. And that is for me, that's a major plus. And especially with the competition, especially with Tua, Joe, and even and Trevor, like all of the, you know, people forget about, even before Trevor got to the national championship game, the game he had against Ohio State was unbelievable. Like, those are things that you look at that you're like, wow, those are franchise quarterback-like moments and performances and plays that they made that not every quarterback in college football could make. And even in those moments, like, you can't, those guys willed their teams to victories. It was very similar to what Deshaun Watson did for Clemson in the national championship game. You know, those type of moments and performances mean a lot for me when I look at quarterbacks. Justin Herbert, he's not flashy. He's your prototypical physical, gifted dude that NFL GMs and pundits sit here and rave about. but he can't play the game as well as the other guys. Just because he's taller and stronger and maybe can throw the ball longer than Joe Burrow and Tua Tagovailoa doesn't mean he's a better quarterback, and he showed that in his college career. In my opinion, I would rather have Jordan Love. If I was the Dolphins, I'm not taking like I said, I wouldn't take a quarterback in the top 5. If anything, I would trade down and maybe get someone like, who knows, maybe fortify some of the, again, maybe take the defensive end from Iowa, who I like a lot. But, or you do whatever you do, you trade down, maybe towards the end of the first round, if he's still there, you draft Jordan Love, you trade back up into the first round to take him, who's another developmental quarterback who I like more than Justin Herbert because of I think his gifts and the way his style I like a little bit better than Herbert's, and I'm not investing a ton of capital into him if I get him at like the end of the first round. I can live with that if he doesn't work out, but to take a top 10 pick on Justin Herbert is to me a stretch. So yeah, this would not be a good thing if this happened, in my opinion. I would not be excited about this. A lot of people compare him to Tannehill. I don't think they're that similar. I think Daniel Jones was a little bit more similar than Tannehill, even though Daniel Jones was probably more accurate than Tannehill was coming out of college. Justin Herbert, I really don't know. Like, maybe he's like a Jeff George or someone like that who just got a really strong arm, or a Joe Flacco. I think he's more like that. Maybe not as talented as those guys were. But, some of the same things that people like about them coming out of college. Like, Josh Allen had a strong arm, but he was so good at improvising. That was a bigger part of him. That was the overwhelming part of him that people liked about him, is the fact that he was so hard to bring down in the pocket. He was so good at creating offense for himself. Justin Herbert doesn't do that. Again, Jordan Love does that better than Justin Herbert, and Joe Burrow and Tua Tagovailoa do that way better than Justin Herbert in terms of creating offense for themselves. I'm just not a big Justin Herbert fan. I don't think he's worth a top 10 pick in the draft at all. He's probably my fourth. If I had to rank the quarterbacks, he's probably my fourth. Because I think Jordan Love isn't a better player than him, but I think he's worth the pick more because of his potential and his ceiling. Justin Herbert, he's somewhere like in between. Could be something, but I think you pretty much see what you get. In my opinion, I don't know. There's just not a lot there, in my opinion. And I speak as, we're all Dolphins. We're all Dolphins here. If you're listening to the show, obviously you're a Dolphins fan. So, this just isn't it. This isn't the quarterback. I think Josh Rosen has a better... If Josh Rosen got a shot somewhere with a better team, he probably performs better than Justin Herbert would ever perform. Or has a better ceiling than Justin Herbert, in my opinion. So, that's just how I feel about it. I would be very upset if the Dolphins did this, because I think it's a mistake. And I'm sick of making mistakes. And especially with, this is the highest pick we've had since, Deion Jordan. So, and we traded up to get that, so, this is an important pick, and it's not, there's way better players than him, and way better picks than him, that you can even get at the tail end of the first round, or mid-first round. You don't have to take it, here. So, yeah, I'm not a fan of Justin Herbert, and I'm definitely not a fan of him to be picked as one of the 5 best players in this draft, that's for sure. So, yeah, I'm not a big fan of this whole situation. So, I don't know. We'll see what happens. I'll be holding my breath the entire draft, especially when Detroit starts to pick, because that's definitely a trade hotspot. If no one trades with Detroit, then we're gonna be good. Then we're gonna be safe, unless the Dolphins trade down. But I'm still on the Tua train. I think Tua is the right move. And some of the things that they said in this, like, the Dolphins are worried about what if okay. So first of all, if you're worried about Tua's hip injury, and all this other stuff. Why does, like, the immediate thing is to pick Justin Herbert? If you don't like Tua, then don't even think about Justin Herbert. Think about something else, or try to get Joe Burrow. Like, we need a quarterback, that's for sure. But Joe Burrow, just wasting a pick on Justin Herbert and investing time into it, it's not the most ideal situation. It's just weird, like, oh, let's not, Tua's got a hip injury, let's immediately go to Justin Herbert. That doesn't make any sense to me. Just because Tua, it has nothing to do with Justin Herbert. Yes, we need a quarterback. Do we need to pick Justin Herbert just because we don't like Tua and his hip? No. That doesn't make any sense. It just, to me, that's stupid. So, someone else can have Justin Herbert. I don't want Justin Herbert. If you're San Diego, or LA, then you take it. I mean, I don't want nothing to do with Justin Herbert. And he could be a great player. Good. Let someone else take that risk. I don't want to be the franchise that does that. So, we'll see what happens. I'm very nervous about this draft because it could easily be messed up. So, I mean, I think we're all I'm nervous and excited at the same time. But, we'll see what happens. Hopefully things in our favor. And again, just because the immediate, unless you like Justin Herbert, I'm talking about Dolphins fans right now, why would you immediately, it's like, oh, well, he's, we have to settle. No, you don't have to settle. You can make better decisions than that. I would, like I said, I would be happier if we pulled a Teddy Bridgewater or a Lamar Jackson situation and we traded back up into the first round, late first round, and took Jordan Love. So, I think that would be a better situation for the Dolphins than settling for Justin Herbert. Believe it or not, that was all the news you need to know about. And, I mean, it is a dead period of football. We're, mid-February, and really beyond mid-February, and there's nothing to talk about. So, I think this is pretty much, hopefully this is just like something to say, I guess, or write about. I have no idea, where it's really just coming out of nowhere. Yeah, I don't know. So let's get into the free agency. This week, we're going to be previewing defensive tackles. So we're running out of positions. I think we have defensive tackles, running backs, defensive ends, and offensive linemen left. I'm saving defensive ends and offensive linemen for the last two shows because those are the most important. So we're going to save those for last. But this week we're going to be previewing defensive tackles. Very important. Before we get into that, just to preface with this, they have to fit, and again, some of these guys I'm going to argue for, some of these guys I'm going to argue against. The criteria this week that they have to fit, you do not have to be a 3-down player to make this list. You have to be a disruptive defensive tackle. You have to be someone who's in the backfield a lot, who affects the run game, who gets their defenses in, or helps them get to 2nd and 10. And really all of these guys on my list fit that. You have to be a big defensive tackle, especially for this front. 350, whatever the heck, just a bigger player. I'm not looking for finesse here. I'm looking for disruptor. So that's the criteria. And before we preview, if you look at the Dolphins situation at defensive tackle right now, they have Devon Godshaw. You got Jenkins, who knows if he'll be on the roster. Christian Wilkins, who we just drafted. Hopefully he takes a leap this upcoming season, but who knows? He played better at the end of the year, but he was disappointing. I'm not going to lie to you guys. I mean, there was really nothing that was insane. I mean, he had a sack against the Jets at home. That's probably his best play of the year. He caught a touchdown. He wasn't immaculate, but hopefully he does have a better year too. But I do think the Dolphins need defensive tackle help, especially for rotation. And defensive tackles you can find, especially last year, there was a lot of good defensive tackles that you could have gotten for very cheap that are good players. And you're not going to have to spend a lot on a defensive tackle, especially since this year's class is very deep. So let's get into some of the guys that I have picked. We'll start with the veteran. Okay, we'll start with two veterans. We'll start with these two veterans first, and we'll get into some of the younger guys. We'll start with Mike Daniels first. Mike Daniels is 30. He's about 3'10", 6 feet tall. He's a smaller defensive tackle. Now, last year he played 3-4 defensive end for Detroit, but his years in Green Bay, he was a defensive tackle, and a 3-4 and a 4-3. And when you look at his stats last year, he only started 2 games. He played 9. Not an entire full season, but Mike Daniels is one of the better disruptors in the run game in the NFL. He's a good rotational player. He's got some pass rush to him. If you look at his career stats, he's had 30 career sacks. For a defensive tackle who's played nose for most of his career, that's pretty dang impressive. And, again, he can do a little bit of all. He's a little older. He's about, he's 30. Got some experience, Pro Bowler. Not going to cost that much money. Coming off of, not the greatest year in Detroit. This is a pretty cheap contract for a talented player. So I'm going to pass this one because of the contract situation, his production in the past, and the type of player that we would be getting. To add him to the defensive tackle rotation, I think would be very, 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 very important. And, one thing you want to talk about with defensive tackles, people always talk, you want to keep them as fresh as possible, and especially with your defensive tackles, you hear that around the league a lot. So it's good to have a good rotation, and I think Mike Daniels would be a very good rotational player there. Let's get to the other veteran player, Michael Brockers. Now, Michael is 6'5", 300. Okay, he played a little bit of 4-3 this previous year, but he's played 3-4 at Jeff Fisher before, so he has experience. He's played nose tackle, DT, in a 4-3 system. He's played every position, defensive end. He's played every position. So he's super versatile. He's got some pass rush to him. He's had 22 career sacks. He's a good player. He's a disruptor. He helps you big time in the run game. He gives you a big presence there. Sort of like a Calais Campbell in terms of his size and the ability. He's nowhere near the pass rusher Calais Campbell. He's nowhere near the player Calais Campbell is. But I'm talking about size. He gives you some of that size and power that you need to get you in some of those situations. And Michael Brockers has always been a good player. He's got his TFLs. He's a good player. Again, he brings you some pass rush. So I like Michael Brockers a lot. Not going to cost that much. There's no reason for me not to say yes on this because, he's not old. He's a big player. Adds some size to the defensive front that we desperately need. And we need talent there at that position anyway. We were one of the worst run defenses in the league last year. That's something that the Patriots defense thrives on, is getting you in 3rd and longs. That's why they've led the league in 3rd down defense for years. Is because they have these defensive tackles that, can, with Vince Wilfork, Danny Shelton, Lawrence Guy, Seymour in the past, they get these players that can get you in those situations and really dominate the running game. Michael Brockers isn't that. Comparing to Mike Daniels is better in the run game. So, in terms of my list, who, we're going to get to here in a minute, the rest of the list, he's probably last on the list, Michael Brockers, in terms of talent. I think he's probably the worst player on this list, but he's still a good player, and he's not going to cost that much. The Rams probably won't re-sign him because of their cap situation, so this could be a good under-the-radar signing for the Dolphins. So I'm gonna pass this. I think he makes your front better, and he makes your run defense better, so even though comparing him to everyone else on this list, I think he would be probably last. But still a good player nonetheless. Alright, let's get into some of the... these guys are really good. All of these guys on the rest of this list are young and really good, and they're giant people. Plug and play them in the middle of this defense. Get these people... Again, the Patriots built through their secondary. So it's really good to have some of these guys up front. Like I said, if you get them in 3rd and longs, that's what this defense is built. That's what we need you to be in, is always behind the chains. And these guys help this defense tremendously do that and really be successful. So these guys are super underrated. I would say if you had to rank the positional groups in this defense, I would say defensive tackle would be third. I would say secondary 1. I'm talking about the way this cover 1 defense that we run. I would say secondary is 1. 2 is linebackers. And I'm talking probably outside linebackers. And 3 I would say is defensive tackle. I think those are the 3 most important positions for this defense. So Danny Shelton is next on my list. Now Danny Shelton, for obvious reasons, you know, coming out of Washington, he was probably way too high of a pick. He was, a top 10 pick for the Cleveland. Literally, the reason he was drafted, he's 345 pounds and he's 6'2". I mean, that is exactly what I'm talking about in terms of getting people behind the chains. So he fits that criteria. Not only is that the best thing that he does, is just literally be a problem in the run game. Literally just, you know, Vince Wilfork-esque in terms. He doesn't have the athleticism Vince had, and he doesn't have the pass rush skills that Vince had. But he is very, very, very good. He's like what's his name? DeMonte Pecco. Can't remember his first name. That type of a player that really is just a disruptor in the run game. Or Haloti Ngata, especially towards the end of his career. Someone like that. That's kind of what his game is. I would say is more. It's almost identical to those players. So he brings a great presence in the run defense. That's what he does best. Not a 3-down player. You know, I really forgot to mention that with the last 2 guys. Not necessarily a 3-down player. Mike Daniels, I think, is probably the best out of the people that we've listed so far. But Daniels, and I would say Michael Brockers is a way better pass rusher than even Danny Shelton is. Danny Shelton, not the best pass rusher in the world. Not really the best athlete in the world. So that's probably the knock, but that's not why we would sign a Danny Shelton. Wouldn't cost that much. Has experience in this defense. Obviously was very successful in New England with this defense. You know, got a ring on his finger. Held the Rams running attack at the time. That was probably the best in the league to 10. Oh, what was it? 10 points. Was a big part of that. So this guy is a premier run defender and would make this defensive front a ton better. And especially if you put him in the rotation with Christian Wilkins and Devon Gottschalk, give those guys a break, put him in on 1st and 2nd down. That helps this defense a whole lot. So yes, I'm going to pass Danny Shelton for obvious reasons. I think he would fit the scheme. Obviously, he's had a lot of experience in it, and I think he'd be very successful. And Brian Flores coached him when they won the Super Bowl, and so he was a starter on that defense. So this might be a match made in heaven, to be honest with you. This next person on this list has been killing us for many years, and he's another very big defensive tackle that has a little bit better pass rush ability to him as well. And most of these guys are 25, 27 years old. They're really young. So they could be, fixtures in this defense for a long time. So the next person on my list is Michael Pierce. Now, Michael Pierce is a great player. One of the best defensive tackles in the league. Really a disruptor. I mean, literally, he's a big dude. He's 6 feet tall, 340. Huge. But has athleticism to him. Has the ability. Him and Brandon Williams are the hardest people to probably run against in the NFL. With them together, I mean, I can't really think of another combination that's as deadly as those two. I mean, Michael Pierce is a force in the run game. If I had to rank everybody so far, he would be the top of the list. I would say it would be Michael Pierce, Danny Shelton, Mike Daniels, and Michael Brockers. And all of those players are good and would be upgrades and it really helped this defense. And I don't think there's going to be anybody that I'm going to be saying a no to, because interior defensive line is a big position. We don't have enough depth there. And, Michael Brockers, Danny Shelton, and even Mike Daniels would be good depth there because they're not going to cost that much. So you could just add them for depth. You're not paying them a starter, one of the starter salary. Now, Michael Pierce is Michael Pierce would be a starter on this defense and would be a Pro Bowl caliber player. I love Michael Pierce. I think he's a great player. So he's the best player that we've talked about so far. He's just, he's a really good player. Again, not really the best, pass rusher in the world, but he's a former first-team All-Pro. He's been a Pro Bowler in the past. Michael Brockers is one of the best, if not the best, 3-4 defensive tackle in the league. He's definitely top 3. In terms, especially for nose tackles, it doesn't get better than Michael Pierce. He does everything that we've talked about. He is such a problem in the run game. It's unreal. And his physicalness, I should say the physicality that he brings to this defense, and a little bit of that, just swag and nastiness to that. I guess nastiness is the only thing I can really say. But I'd say intimidation is the right word. That Baltimore defense has had since Ray Lewis hasn't been there, and they've had some years in between that haven't been so good. But he brings that to this defense that this defense needs, a physicality to this defense that will help us in some of the northern climates like Buffalo and New England and New York in December if we play them then. He just brings a physicality and intimidation to this defense as well. So Michael Pierce is the best player that we've talked about so far, and I love him. And all of these guys would help the defense. Michael Pierce would be, he's a former first-team All-Pro. This guy is legit. It's hard to believe all these guys are free agents because all of these guys are starters on any defense, especially the front that we run. These guys would help this defense a great deal. This next player on my list is another young player, former Clemson player, another big. He's going to add, again, this is another player that's going to add a lot of size and physicality to the interior, and a great rotation if this happened, by the way. DJ Reader, who is probably another guy who, former first-team All-Pro, and it was a Pro Bowler. Great player, dude. Probably one of the best TFL defensive tackles in the league right now. Has good pass rush skills. He's athletic enough to do that. Is a 3-down player, by the way. Michael Pierce is a 3-down player, too. I know he's a bigger dude, but you can absolutely put him out there. Maybe you want to put more speed out there for your 3rd-down defense, especially if you're playing like a Lamar Jackson. But you can get away with him like a Michael Pierce on 3rd down. Same thing with DJ Reader. Again, brings great size, 6'3", 340. He's just a playmaker on the inside of your defense. He's a playmaker in the run game. And we play people like Buffalo and New England, who are both run-heavy offenses. These guys are very important to that, and would and I don't expect a lot of these guys to leave their teams, but I would say Michael Pierce and DJ Reader so far. I wouldn't expect those guys to leave their teams because of how important they are. But what a rotation just a talent upgrade, the rotation that he would bring with Devon Godchaux, DJ Reader. Just think about that, DJ Reader and Christian Wilkins. That would be one heck of an interior defensive line, and we would have one of the best in the league. And just adding one of these guys, if you add Michael Pierce, DJ Reader, if you add one of those two, or Danny Shelton, that's one of the better interior run-stopping defensive tackle rotations in the league. You have Christian Wilkins can be your 3rd-down DT if you want one out there who has probably the best pass. It's one of the reasons we drafted him. So, again, it would be a killer rotation, and DJ Reader is a great player. Again, former first-team All-Pro, great player. This last player that we're going to talk about, and I think this is the first time we have not passed someone. All of these guys I would greatly take. Some of the guys that we talked about in the beginning you can get for cheap. Even Danny Shelton. This player that we're going to talk about right now is the best player on this list, in my opinion. There's probably zero chance he leaves his team, but he is a great player. And he not only does he bring a great force in the run defense, but he's by far the best pass rusher on this list. And the last player that we're going to talk about, again, the best player, is Jarran Reed. Now, the knock on Jarran Reed, I think he's by far the best, not by far, but the best player on this list. He brings so much to your defense. He is a problem. He's a game wrecker. And again, he's definitely the best pass rusher on this list. He's had 15 sacks in 4 years, and he's missed a lot of games. He missed 7 games this past season due to suspension, and he hasn't been the healthiest player in the world, but he is insanely good. I like Jarran Reed a lot. One of the best defensive tackles in the league. Can do it all. He's again great in the run game, great in pass rush. He's a force. He's a force. He's just a playmaker too. One of the few, like him, I would say Jarran Reed, Aaron Donald, Chris Jones, Fletcher Cox, maybe Sheldon Rankins, Geno Atkins, I think he's probably the 5th or 4th best pass rusher at defensive tackle in the league. He's that good. So there's no way that Seattle would let him go because he's such a big part of that defense. That plays cover 3 and really just lets their front wreck games. So he's a huge part of that, and I don't think Seattle. Unless they're just he's missed too many games over the last 4 years due to suspension and injury that they're like maybe not. But I would definitely take a flyer on Jarran Reed. He's such a special player that I would definitely do it. In terms of size, 6'3", 306 pounds, and he's an athletic freak. So Jarran Reed is by far the best player on this. Not by far. I shouldn't say by far, but he's definitely the best player on this list, and would be a significant upgrade at that position. And not only, that, but he brings you a star and a Pro Bowler on your defense for a long time. I think out of Michael Pierce, DJ Reader, who are probably, I would say Jarran Reed's 1, Michael Pierce is probably 2, DJ Reader's probably 3 on my list. Out of all of those two players that are going to get paid this offseason, not only is Jarran Reed better than them, but I think he has a chance to be a special player for a long time because of his skill set. I think this is someone who not only is a great defensive tackle, but a great defensive player all the way around, and could be a building block for this team for years to come. Because of his age, he's only 27 years old. He's a great pass rusher, a great run defender. I think this is someone you could build around for a long time. It could be a star on your defense for a long time. So Jarran Reed would be, if I had to rank free agents, probably would be in my top 5 because of how good he is and how much he brings to this defense and how much we need that on this defense. He would definitely be one of the better players that the Dolphins could pick up. He's that good, that special. All you got to do is go look at his game against the 49ers late in the season. Him and Jadeveon Clowney were unstoppable in that game. And that's one of the best offensive lines in the league. And one of the best run games in the league, by the way. No, the best run game in the league. So, Jarran Reed's special. So, I like Jarran Reed a lot. So, let's get into the fan Q&A, ladies and gentlemen, where we answer fans' questions. I would love to hear your thoughts on the defensive tackle position, who you would pick up, who you wouldn't pick up. To me, those are the best defensive tackles in free agency, especially for this scheme. And if we got any single one of those guys, it would be an upgrade and make our defense better. And then, again, if you look at the competition in the AFC East, we got Lev Bell in New York, probably not for that much longer. But the two best teams in our division, the Jets suck, and they're a pass-heavy team. But the Bills and the Patriots are both run-heavy offenses. The Patriots run a lot of I formation. The Bills are under center, one of the most heavy under center teams in the league. Plus, Josh Allen runs himself too, and is a big part of that run game. So, with Devin Singletary, who had a great rookie year, and looks to be he's going to be a good player for a long time. We need to have a more physical front. And like I said, this is probably the third most important position for this defense is defensive tackle. So if we got Jarran Reed or any of those guys, it would be such a help to this defense. So very important, very important. So let's get into the fan Q&A, where we answer fans' questions, like I just said 2 seconds ago. This first question comes from Troy. Troy says, have you gone back and watched Rosen's 3 games from the 2019 season? What did you think? Did you see any potential before the offensive line stopped blocking and receivers started dropping perfect passes? I think one of the things you notice when you go back and watch the Redskins game, I haven't recently gone back and watched it. One of the things that you notice is the offense it did not run as fast. It wasn't as fluid. There was less shotgun plays, which I thought was interesting. When Ryan Fitzpatrick got out of the game, he was in shotgun way more than Josh Rosen was before. And in fairness to Josh Rosen, a lot of the time it was a lot of play action, like some of the worst plays in that game. Most, like 100% of those were play action passes, and we just didn't have First of all, we had no threat of running the ball. I have no idea what the game plan was going into that game because there's like no one in the NFL is worried about us handing the ball off. So let's just put it that way. So why we were play actioning as much as we were in that game, I have no idea. So it wasn't just Josh Rosen playing bad. Some of it was the game plan wasn't the greatest, but there was a noticeable difference between Ryan Fitzpatrick and Josh Rosen, and that's just the fluidness of the offense was different. Josh Rosen doesn't make reads like Ryan Fitzpatrick does. Ryan Fitzpatrick was able to run the offense at a higher level, was able to make quicker reads, got the ball out of his hands when nothing was there, and didn't take a sack. Josh Rosen is not good at that. Josh Rosen holds onto the ball way too long. He doesn't make reads fast enough, and when there's nothing there, he makes a bad play even worse. He doesn't have the athleticism to run back there and keep plays alive for 10 extra seconds, for God's sakes. And that gets him in trouble a lot of the time. He hasn't yet mastered the part of... he's a pocket passer. He needs to master getting into 2nd and 10, getting into 3rd and 10. And I know that sounds crazy, but it's true. You don't want to be in 2nd and 12, 3rd and 13. That's the stuff that he needs to really just manage the game better. Make faster reads. Get rid of the ball faster. Don't take as many sacks as he took. You know, let's put it this way. Ryan Fitzpatrick, when he took the job back over, we had a top 10 passing offense at that point on. We wouldn't have had that with Josh Rosen. Our offensive line would have looked even worse. You look at our offensive line and you're like, how did we have that high of a ranking in terms of pass? I don't know. Because Ryan Fitzpatrick was not only good at improvising, but he was really good at reading the field. And that's why I say it was his best year ever, is because he did such a good job of getting out of bad plays. And that's something that you've seen, like, again, in Ryan Fitzpatrick's past, he would make a bad play even worse. This year, he made a bad play even better, literally almost 100% of the time. And that's something that Josh Rosen needs to get better at, is that aspect of being a passer. And because he can sling it better than, I mean, he is so accurate that, you know, that's just the part of the game that he needs to get better at. And plus, he needs a better offensive line because he is a statue back there. He needs more time and he needs more development, I would say. And hopefully he can take a bigger leap in year 3. And again, this is a player that's talented, that still has an opportunity, and we'll see what happens. But I think those are the things that you notice most, especially with the Washington game. This next question comes from JagPack18. He says, you've mentioned X's and Omar before. What other Dolphins content / podcasts do you like? There's none other than that I watch. X's and Omar it's a good show. They're super cynical on that show, I would say. It was funny because after Omar Kelly said if I would crown Brian Flores if he beats New England in New England. And then Brian Flores proceeds to do so, and then Omar was still hating on Brian Flores. So like it's so weird, that show, because you know they're older dudes who've, you know, I don't know how old Omar and I know Dave Hyde's old. And actually, I guess I shouldn't say old, but they've been around the Dolphins for a while, and it's hard not to get, I guess, cynical and just, you know, like, oh, everything's terrible. So I get it. You know, they have to see it. They really have to see it before they give any praise. But yeah, to answer your question, no, that's the only shows I watch. This next question comes from SM. SM says, Skaggs, walk me through the scenario that allows Marino to sign Derrick Henry. I said Marino. That allows Miami to sign Derrick Henry in free agency. Walk me through the scenario? Man, if I was us, I would invest so much into both lines in free agency that wouldn't even be a thought that goes through my mind. I'd be like, listen, we're going to draft a running back. I would invest so much in both lines. I'm gonna have to. I mean, I really don't want to sign Derrick Henry, but to walk you through it, I don't know really. I don't think he's gonna leave Tennessee, especially after the season. He carried them to the AFC Championship game, so I don't think. I'm gonna say I'm not even gonna preview this because I not only do I not want it to happen, I don't think it's a good idea to invest in someone who just is really gonna command a lot of money. It's not something the Dolphins need because he's not gonna have an offensive line to run through, and he had, man, I think I just went to a different dimension there. Number one, he had a really good offensive line in Tennessee, one of the best in the league. So he doesn't fit what's going on. We have to fix the offensive line first, right? So we have to invest in the offensive line and defensive line. I don't think that would be the best move in the world, in my opinion. This next question comes from Ethan. He says, "Hey Skaggs, you and your dogs put on a great show." He says, "Do you agree with?" I appreciate that. He says, "Do you agree with players holding out because they believe that they have outperformed their contract? I personally believe you sign a contract to play your best football thoughts." No, I disagree with that. When you hear about how, it is a business, and you hear some of the horror stories, you have to get paid as fast as you can. You have a 4 to 5 year window, and not even that, it's really 3 to 4 year window of your best ball. And you want to get paid before that window closes. So I'd have no issue. Listen, it doesn't go both ways, okay? You don't just get to have a player that's a great player that you don't pay like a great player. If the player holds out, yeah, it sucks, but it also sucks that he's not getting paid. And fans look at it from, we want to win. That's our interest and that's our investment into the game, and so do the players. But they need to be paid. It is what it is, You got to get paid. You got to get paid. I have no problem with that at all. So I don't have any issue with it. This next question comes from SM. SM says, there is this high school quarterback named Arch Manning. Yes, I've seen him. Peyton and Eli's nephew. Have you heard of him? By the reports, he is better than his uncles were at that age. Yeah, I've not only heard of him, but there's like tons of highlights of him. He's a high school player, dude. Every high school player looks better than everybody else that's talented. So who knows how good he'll be? We'll see. It's hard to tell. But we'll see. We'll see. This next question comes from Jerry. He says, would you be okay with spending big money in free agency on someone like Jake Conklin or Brandon Sheriff? Or Sharif, however you say his name. Definitely not Sharif. Yes. Yes. That would be... Jake Conklin's had a bad injury history, and Brandon doesn't have the best either. So that would be interesting. But, yeah, that's kind of where I would want the Dolphins to spend their money. This next question comes from SM. SM says, Mr. Skaggs, nice work as usual. Let's say we miss on a quarterback at 5, or Josh Rosen kills it and we roll with him and Fitzpatrick. At any rate, tell me what you think of this nasty draft. First pick, Isaiah Simmons. Oh God, I'm sorry guys, I'm spacing out. I forgot that we had 3 first-round picks. Pick 18 in the first round, AJ Espenzia, I think it's how you, or Espenzia, yeah. Defensive end from Iowa, who's one of my favorite players in the draft. And 26th pick in the draft, Kenneth Murray, a linebacker. The first 2 picks would be sick, because our defense would be sick for a long time if we had Isaiah Simmons and AJ. They would be, great player, especially for AJ. AJ fits the scheme perfectly. Isaiah Simmons would be insane in this defense, because we run a lot of cover 1, and our defense is very versatile, and we like to plug and play players at different positions. Isaiah Simmons is a perfect fit for that. So, if we don't get a quarterback, that's a pretty good draft. This next question comes to, I like it a lot. This next question comes from Logan. Logan says, would you trade Josh Rosen to the Patriots for their first, and why? If the Patriots called me and said they're willing to trade a first-round pick for Josh Rosen, I wouldn't do it. I'd be like, I don't know what the heck you guys know that I don't know. I wouldn't do it just because it's the Patriots. And let's put it this way: if the Patriots made that trade, immediately everybody would be like, "What a trade for the Patriots!" I'm not even joking around. It'd be like, "Oh my God, they found their next quarterback." That's how insane everybody is about. I don't know why New England gets, because I guess they've earned it, I guess, to get that kind of praise. But when we trade for them, it's like, oh, what are they doing? Anyway, this next question comes from SM. He says, tell me under what circumstance Josh Rosen is the Week 1 starter. He has a killer camp. This is what would happen if Josh Rosen just destroys. The offensive line gets improved greatly, and he takes a big step in year 3. If those 2 things happen, especially since he's in a spread offense, and the offense is way, way more simple than what it was before, those 3 things, if the offensive line is better. He's going into year 3, so that should be he should be better, and he's going into an easier offense to understand. Those 3 things, and he's got talent. He could have a killer offseason. So, but those 3 things have to happen, and then he has to have a killer offseason. But it's definitely possible. This next question comes from Julian. He says, "How do you feel about the Dolphins getting Jalen Hurts or Hearns? Jalen Hurns? Do you mean Jalen Hurts or Jalen Hurns?" Let me look at the list again. I have to go back. Let's see here. Is there a Jalen Hurns? Let me see here. Jalen Hurns. I think you mean Hurts. Yeah, you have to mean Hurts. I've never heard of a. Yeah, you mean Hurts. One of the things I will say about Jalen Hurts is not a good pocket passer. Definitely a great improviser. But he actually was. He didn't look. His movement skills in the Senior Bowl didn't look good. I don't know why, but he didn't look like the. If you're gonna draft Jalen Hurts, he has to be insanely good at moving outside and inside the pocket, and I just didn't see that in the Senior Bowl. So I'm gonna say no on Jalen Hurts. This next question comes from Jerry. Jerry says, "How do you feel about pursuing Trey Boston, Clinton Dix, or Chris Harris in free agency?" I'm definitely down for Chris Harris. Trey Boston is terrible. Trey Boston is not. First of all, he's a zone safety. He's very bad in the open field and tackling. He's not a cover 1. He does not fit the scheme at all. Trey Boston is one of the worst safeties in the league. He sucks in the run game. He's terrible. He's not a good athlete. He's smart. I think that's the best thing that he is. He's a smart player, but he's not good at anything. He's not athletic enough. He's not the athlete. He can't match up in man-to-man. Like he doesn't fit the scheme. And he's one of the worst safeties I've ever watched. Clinton Dix, same issue. He's a thumper. He's a traditional strong safety. He's not a good coverage player. I just don't think he fits the scheme. Chris Harris fits the scheme perfectly, though. This next question comes from Logan. He says, "What do you think about the latest Tua smokescreen?" What do you mean? The Herbert? I mean, we talked about it. I hope it's a smokescreen. This next question comes from SM. He says, he asks, does Dez Bryant have anything left, and would you take him on the cheap? Not to be the number 1, but imagine Preston Williams and Devontae Parker on the outside, Mike at tight end, and Dez in the slot. I think our receiver core is pretty good already. I mean, Dez Bryant, it would be interesting to see Dez Bryant in this offense, that's for sure. This next question comes from Richard. Richard says, "Do you think if the Dolphins don't get to it, they will trade back for Jordan Love or draft Jake Fromm with one of the second-round picks? Fromm is another Andy Dalton." The fact that you said Fromm is another Andy Dalton is a reason I wouldn't use a second-round pick on him. And that's just, we need better than Andy Dalton. This next question comes from Jerry. He says, "Just for giggles, do you hate Omar Kelly as much as I do?" No, I don't hate Omar Kelly. I think he's a jaded man. But I don't think he's smart. And the prism that he looks through to analyze things is a little different than a lot of people's, but that's just the way he does things. So yeah, that's be it for this week's show. I hope you guys enjoyed. Not a lot to talk about. It was really slow in terms of news, but March is coming and the free agency is coming behind it, and it's going to be pretty sick. So hopefully the Dolphins, depending on how aggressive the Dolphins are going to be, is going to be a very, very interesting. And I hope after March is over and after free agency is over, we look at offensive and defensive line and say, man, especially defensive line, I would just say, wow. That's all I want to hear is wow, and how much improved just the team is overall. So I'm very excited to see what happens. So that's going to be it, guys. I am Skax383. Let me know what you guys think, and I'll see you guys in the next one.